over 200 dead, 60,000 displaced, 2 years of silence from New Delhi. What's really happening in Manipur? And why does the world refuse to look? On May 3, 2023, a protest march in a small district of northeast India triggered one of the worst ethnic conflagrations the country has seen in decades. Villages burned. Women were paraded naked through streets on video. Thousands fled into the hills. What's happening in Manipur is far more than a tribal dispute over government quotas. It is the collision of colonial ghosts, narco-economics, a neighbour's civil war, and competing great power ambitions, all detonating in a state the size of Wales that most Indians couldn't place on a map. The immediate trigger was almost bureaucratic. The Manipur High Court recommended that the Metis community, who make up over 53% of the state's population, but are confined to just 10% of its land, the Imphal Valley, be granted scheduled tribe (ST) status under India's affirmative action system. To the Metis, this was a question of survival. They felt squeezed, economically disadvantaged, unable to buy land in the hills. To the Kuki-Zo tribal communities of the surrounding highlands, it was an existential threat. If the dominant valley group got ST status, the land rights, quotas, and political representation that the hill tribes had fought for generations to protect would be diluted overnight. The Tribal Student Union called a solidarity march on the 3rd of May. It ended in fire. The identities of different ethnic communities have repeatedly been weaponized to serve the interests of a powerful few. To understand Manipur, you must go back to the British Empire, specifically to a single administrative decision that has haunted this land for 170 years. The British classified Manipur's people into two legal worlds: the valley dwellers, Metis, predominantly Hindu, governed by one set of laws, and the hill tribes, Kukis, Nagas, Christians, governed by another. The hills were declared scheduled areas with special protections. The valley was not. Colonial fault lines, still bleeding. 1949, Manipur's disputed merger with Indian plants seeds of resentment. Many in the northeast never fully accepted it. 1958, the Armed Forces Special Powers Act, AFSPA, is imposed, granting the military sweeping powers. Rights groups have long criticized it as enabling abuses. 2008, 25 Kuki-Zo militant groups sign a suspension of operations agreement, a fragile peace. The central government never resolved the underlying demands. 2023, the state government withdraws from the 2008 agreement. The lapse of the ceasefire removes the last guardrail. Violence explodes. When the British left, they handed India an administrative framework that locked communities into competition with each other over land, reservations, and political power. Nobody rewrote the code. The bomb simply ticked for 75 years until it finally went off. There's a second war happening just across Manipur's porous eastern frontier. In February 2021, Myanmar's military, the Tatmadaw, staged a coup, plunging the country into a devastating civil war. Armed resistance movements, ethnic armies, the People's Defense Forces now fight across Myanmar's western states, Chin, Sagaing, Kachin. The Kuki-Zo communities of Manipur and the Chin people of Myanmar are the same ethnic group, split by a colonial border. As Myanmar's Chin fighters faced military airstrikes, tens of thousands fled straight into Manipur. By the end of 2024, nearly 96,000 Myanmar refugees had entered India. The Metis community viewed this influx as a demographic threat to their already stained valley homeland. The same porous border that let refugees in also let guns and narcotics flow freely. Myanmar is Southeast Asia's largest drug producer. Manipur sits at its supply route. Cross-border ethnic ties have directly drawn armed factions from Myanmar into the Manipur conflict. This is no longer just a domestic Indian problem. Drug trafficking networks, intertwined with insurgent groups on both sides, have a financial interest in keeping the border chaotic and ungovernable. Manipur doesn't just border Myanmar, it is the gateway to Southeast Asia, the linchpin of India's Act East policy. New Delhi's grand strategy to economically and diplomatically integrate with ASEAN nations. The India-Myanmar-Thailand trilateral highway a transformative infrastructure project that could reshape regional trade, runs directly through conflict-hit Manipur, the once thriving border town of Moreh, a hub of cross-border commerce, has been effectively paralyzed. China is watching. Beijing has long cultivated relationships with various ethnic armed organizations in Myanmar, using them as leverage. As India's gateway to the east remains on fire, China consolidates diplomatic and economic influence across the very countries India hoped to court. Every month Manipur burns is a mouth China gains ground in the strategic competition for Southeast Asia. Without a clear strategy, India risks losing geopolitical influence in Myanmar, and with it, its entire actist vision. What began as ethnic clashes now morphed into something more alarming, a de facto partition of the state, enforced by armed militias on both sides. May 2023, violence erupts across Churachandpur and the valley. Over 1,700 buildings burned in weeks. The internet is shut down. Mid-2023, Methi militia groups Arambai Tengul, 60,000 plus cadets, and Methi Lempun emerge as major armed actors alongside state police, which itself began fracturing along ethnic lines. July 2023, a video of two Kuki women being paraded naked by mob goes viral globally. 2024, drone strikes are reported in the conflict zone, a chilling escalation signaling the acquisition of military-grade tactics by non-state actors. February 2025, President's Rule, Article 356 is imposed. The elected state government is suspended, a buffer zone of no man's land, monitored by central paramilitary forces, now divides Methi and Kuki areas. The central government's response has been, by most accounts, a case study in strategic negligence. Prime Minister Modi visited Manipur 0 times during the conflict's first 2 years. He spoke publicly on the crisis only twice, once forced by viral video, once by a parliamentary speech that shook the nation. The policy response leaned heavily on security, curfews, shoot-on-sight orders, internet shutdowns, troop deployments. The peace committee formed under the state government was rejected by both Methi and Kuki groups. Talks stalled. The ceasefire agreement lapsed. Normalcy for 60,000 displaced people in relief camps never returned. Critics argue the ruling BJP's political calculations made Manipur's resolution difficult. The Metis, who largely supported the state government, were not to be alienated. The tribal Kukis or Christians demanded a separate administration that would effectively partition the state, something no government could easily grant. The conflict has become a battleground for competing international narratives. Some Western nations and diaspora organizations have framed the violence as religious persecution of Christian tribal minorities by Hindu majority groups, a framing Indian officials reject as reductive and politically motivated. American NGOs and congressional committees raised concerns about religious freedom. Indian diplomats argued the conflict's roots lie in land rights, demographic pressures, and drug trafficking, not religion. Both framings contain partial truths. Both serve geopolitical purposes beyond Manipur's hills. Manipur is burning because layers of no single actor created and no single solution can fix. Colonial administrative divisions that were never reconciled. A reservation system turned into an ethnic zero-sum game. A civil war next door that sent guns and refugees across an unguarded border. A drug economy with incentives to keep the state ungovernable. And a great power competition that makes every fire in India's northeast a strategic opportunity for rivals. The people paying the price, the Methi family whose house was torched, the Kukizo woman sheltering in a relief camp with her children, the young man who left for Bangalore because there was nothing left for him at home, are the collateral damage of history, geography, and geopolitics conspiring at once. Manipur will not be fixed by troops and internet shutdowns. It will be fixed, if it is fixed, by the long, painful work of political dialogue that nobody in power seems willing to begin. Like, subscribe and hit the bell icon so that you don't miss any video. Thanks for watching. Jai Hind.